expected that a stream of reproaches would immediately break out about why he was pointing her out and everything like that. So he closed his eyes. "Okay," the girl answered, and all his expectations were shattered, making the prince surprised. All the surprise was written on his face, and the girl noticed this, mentally surprised at such a reaction. "I hope you won't forget about this promise," Demian could only answer, embarrassed. And he hurried to leave his sister's room, quickly closing the door behind him. She is glad that now she has a family, which she did not have in her previous life, but the relationship between her brother and sister leaves much to be desired. He is friendly with others, while with his sister he is irritable. Of course, Agnes did a lot to deserve such treatment. She pursues a handsome knight without regard for her reputation, does not fulfill her duties, disappears at balls, gets drunk and commits outrages. But still, to say that she won't be able to find a good groom for herself, what's the point? An advanced era where airships fly across the sky and golems cultivate fields, how can it be so old-fashioned? Boundless Splash is a world where authentic fantasy is combined with steampunk. She immediately wanted to catch up with the prince and say something, but perhaps she would refrain, because tomorrow she would finally officially be transferred to the Order of the Black Knights. And then the long-awaited day came. The maids helped the princess get dressed and get ready. Looking at herself in the mirror, the girl thought that this uniform suited her better than the uniform of the White Knights, and it turns out that she had a pair of clothes with Kylo. Looking at the quite cheerful princess, the maids were wondering whether to say that this uniform suits her, but decided not to risk it, fearing that the princess would accuse them of putting her on the same level as the Black Knights, and maybe even hit her once another. "What do you think? It suits me," Agnes asked, looking up from her reflection in the mirror, taking the girls by surprise. But she immediately corrected herself that absolutely everything suited her. She didn't even need to ask about it, which drove the maids even more into a dead end with her behavior. And when the girls timidly asked if she was definitely not against moving to another order, Agnes replied that she could not always do as she wanted, and she would show the nobility that a member of the imperial family should have. The maids could not believe their ears. Was it really their princess who was talking like that? In the end, Agnes released the maids, and it was time for her to go to the Order of the Black Knights. Finally, she would be able to show Kylo a new self, which made the girl feel great. "The princess will really come today?" the knight asked the commander, and immediately answered that he could very well bet his right to be called a knight on the fact that she would not appear. The commander of the Black Knights was not so categorical, but still, he thought, remembering what happened a couple of days ago. The emperor summoned him to a personal audience and told him some very important news. As everyone knew, Agnes lost her mother as a child and grew up alone. There is talk in society that Agnes does not fulfill the role of healer due to selfishness, but in reality she is just very impressionable. She was horrified by the sight of a patient with symptoms similar to those of her mother, and when her nanny died, the girl herself became like a dead man. The emperor understands that he is too gentle towards his daughter, but he cannot do otherwise. It is more difficult for him to manage with her than with the duties of a ruler. Kylo understood that the emperor wanted to say that, despite the fact that the princess had formally become his subordinate, one should not treat her carelessly, and one must play a show. But she cannot live like this forever. The ruler finished his speech, which greatly surprised the knight. As the emperor had heard, Kylo did an excellent job on the front lines and killed countless demons. So couldn't he take control of Princess Agnes, make her feel the bitterness of life? Kylo asked in surprise if the emperor was saying not to give the princess any concessions and treat her as his subordinate. "Exactly, if possible, then perceive her as your unloved subordinate," the ruler confirmed. The emperor's order was quite unexpected, but the power of the current emperor is incomparably strong. If the princess acts as the emperor wishes, if she attracts his attention, then he will be able to defeat his stepmother and cousins, as well as those who looked down on him. This was an opportunity to repay the princess for her contempt for him, the man decided, and she would regret not coming. "Princess Agnes Saint has arrived," they announced at the door, and both knights stared in that direction in surprise. The princess was allowed to enter, which she did immediately with a sinking heart. The girl did not behave arrogantly, as usual, but respectfully stopped not far from the commander. Looking at Princess Agnes, Kylo Grey could not believe that she had actually come. It seemed that she did not fully understand the situation. Kylo immediately clarified that the Emperor had ordered him to never give her any special treatment while she was wearing the uniform of the Order of the Black Knights. So, since she herself came here in uniform, can he assume that she is already ready to grovel before him? From his tone, from his formulation of the question, Agnes even became slightly nervous, and a trembling ran through the girl's body. Lowering her head, the girl expressed the hope that he would forget about her previous rudeness and would lead her with him, without sharing her with other members of the Order. "She's trying to curry favor with me," the man thought smugly. Then, taking the quill, the commander of the Order of the Black Knights, Kylo Grey, took the quill and signed the document in front of him. "This is the order of appointment. She is now Dame Agnes Saint, officially a member of the Order of the Black Knights." But something is strange. He is used to people looking at him with contempt because he is an illegitimate child. But Princess Agnes did not look at him with contempt, but as a pest. It was as if she considered him the most harmful insect in the world. As much as she feared that His Majesty would get rid of her, she was not one to throw away her pride easily. But today her behavior is different from usual. What is she thinking about? Agnes listened silently to her now commander, and did not utter a word in response. The girl even blushed with embarrassment. She liked the sarcasm in Kylo's voice so much. "How can one be so beautiful? Is it possible for coldness to look so harmonious on these neat features?" He also has a wide and sexy chest, as befits the strongest man in the world. He even has beautiful handwriting. Except for his character, he is perfect in everything. But she also loves his character, because of which he reminds her of a playful and slightly evil but such a cute cat. Looking at the unusually quiet girl, Kylo realized that she was definitely up to something. "Well, Agnes, I'll give you your first task," the commander said, and the girl perked up, imagining her first date with Kylo. The commander said that it was necessary to restore the outer walls of the capital's fortress in the eastern region of A15 from the damage caused by the war. However, before the builders begin to work, the Black Knights will arrive there and check for the presence of remaining monsters. She will go there alone, the commander concluded with an ominous smile. Agnes, like the other knight, listened in horror as the commander unharnessed that. Except for dressing up in dresses and looking in the mirror, she doesn't know how to do anything. And he was wondering how well she would cope with the task, and that the weapon was intended for her small pistol. To send alone not a combat warrior, but a magician healer while giving him only one small pistol is the same as saying, when you meet a monitor, just die. But it doesn't matter. Agnes was upset that she wasn't going with Kylo, even though it wasn't originally a date, and the commander, looking at her reaction, thought that she was afraid. "I'll do everything," the girl said confidently, and after saluting like a knight, she left the room. The knight, leaning towards the commander, asked if everything would be all right, because it might happen that the princess would actually go alone and meet the monster. Kylo didn't know if she was really scared. She would fall and ask His Majesty for help. In fact, he did not specifically say anything to Jeremy when he came to District A15 to visit the arrested members of the Order. The patrol was already completed, and he did not officially report for the sake of a good debut for the princess. In an empty village from which all the inhabitants were evacuated, only buildings remained, touched by the horror of war, but more importantly, the atmosphere heightens the expectation that someone might jump out on you. Having experienced this firsthand, the princess will no longer be able to be rude as before. To be honest, if it weren't for orders from the Emperor, Kylo wouldn't have gone this far with a child who had only recently reached adulthood. In any case, nothing dangerous will happen, so it doesn't matter. So after reassuring Jeremy, the commander allowed him to go. However, there was another random witness from the conversation. Knight Sirius Melville, a member of the Order of White Knights, unwittingly overheard the princess's first appointment through the slightly open door. And like a true ladies' man, he was seriously indignant at such a dangerous appointment for a fragile girl. Kylo Grey, he's completely crazy. Sirius was indignant, returning to his headquarters, expressing everything to Commander Spencer, who was there. "Sirius, you came for a report. What are you suddenly talking about?" The commander of the White Knights was perplexed, but the knight believed that this was not important now on the way here. He clearly heard Kylo Grey single-handedly sending Princess Agnes to Area A15, which had not yet been checked. Moreover, when he looked into the armory, it turned out that the princess was given only one small pistol. Listening to all this, Raymond Spencer thought, It is true that out of a desire to take all the laurels for himself, Kylo Grey caused a bit of trouble on the battlefield. He skillfully held the entire line and got off with a light punishment. He is not one of those who acts without thinking about the consequences. And he cannot be so blinded by power as to arouse the wrath of the Emperor. These words now made Sirius think. The commander suggested that this seemed like a plan to discourage the princess, but the knight persisted that there was still the possibility of a bad outcome. What if the princess was seriously hurt? We should go and check, but Sirius needs to go on patrol. Okay, I'll personally look after the princess, so go on a mission, the commander answered after thinking a little, which made the knight very happy. And as he was leaving, he asked him to say something to Kylo Grey, because he thinks that the Black Order is on a par with the White One, which is far from true. When the door closed behind Sirius Melville, Raymond exhaled tiredly, not believing what he had just said. How much longer will he have to solve the problems of the princess, which should in no way concern him? When she was transferred to the Order of the Black Knights, he was relieved that he would no longer have to deal with her nonsense. But he was again interfered with in her affairs on the very first day of her transfer. Perhaps this time it was not Kylo Grey who was responsible, but Princess Agnes. Her reckless interest and selfish courtship, Raymond was very tired of them. And this time he will do everything possible to avoid such situations, no matter what the cost. Some time passed before Lady Agnes Saint reached the lands that the knights call A15. The tired girl, together with her horse, finally saw her destination, and I even experienced some relief, mixed with anticipation. Unlike the commander of the White Knights, who set out with a heavy heart, not even imagining what awaited him. Meanwhile, while Agnes and Raymond separately travel to the A15 region, some events occur at the headquarters of the Black Knights. In the office of the Black Knights, Commander Grey received a report from one of his knights, who reported that the knights who had left for Area A15 yesterday were currently returning. This news made the man look up from reading the papers and stare at the speaker in surprise. He was sure that the inspection of this area had been completed yesterday, but it turned out that this was not the case. But Black Knight Order member Victor Craven, a man of few words and more focused on increasing physical strength than basic knight training, replied that he had only sent a preliminary report, since it was a chore to do so after returning. "What?" the commander cried when he heard that the lady who went with him to the examination yesterday had lost her cat. She made such a fuss that they were forced to return early without finishing their inspection of Area A15, and since they stopped searching and returned, they would have to continue searching for demons later, from which the commander's eyes widened in horror, and the man nervously jumped up from his seat. Damn, they couldn't be trusted. If the search wasn't over yet, then the princess was in danger now. Meanwhile, the guards guarding the entrance to District A15 asked the princess in surprise why she had come here. Agnes was quite surprised by this question. Did they really not know about her arrival? It is obvious that since a member of the Black Order arrived, it means for the purpose of making a round. Judging by the fact that they ask about her arrival, they have already examined everything here, but still the girl showed them the commander's order. Having confirmed the order, the guards let the princess through, but they themselves were surprised, because the area had already been explored. It was to be expected that Kylo would never put her in danger, Agnes thought as she moved deeper into the area. Her kitten is a little rude, sarcastic, has a huge inferiority complex and is impolite, but he is not a bad cat at all. He must have gone to such mean lengths to scare her. How sweet. Looking around, she realized that it was terrible here. Fortunately, the residents were evacuated in advance, and there were few casualties. Raymond did a great job. People praise Raymond Spencer as a war hero, and they are right. Thanks to his unmatched resourcefulness, Raymond grasped the movements of the demons and their plans, and he won almost every battle. Moreover, he is young and attractive, and bears the wound of losing his mother as a child to a demon. He was a star that one could not help but admire. However, due to his bright light, the other knights were forgotten. Unlike Raymond, who mostly commanded, Kylo Grey fought personally, but no one appreciates that. When she returned, she should at least pretend to be scared to death of this place and admire its bravery. The princess was brought out of her reverie by some strange sound, and the girl turned around warily. That dark creature nearby among the destroyed buildings, is it really a monster? Either this area was not explored, or the area was inspected carelessly. The black entity was approaching her. It seemed like it was about to attack. What should she do? Unconsciously, her thoughts turned to Kylo for help, and the girl closed her eyes. Meow was heard nearby, and a fluffy black cat bent into Agnes's arms. Judging by how calmly she sits in her arms, she is used to people. Probably the owner was not able to pick her up during the evacuation. The cat was seriously injured, and the princess, like a magician, used her power to heal her. The treatment was quick and painless, and soon it was all over. The grateful creature, feeling that it was no longer in pain, purred gratefully. Agnes said that she was just bored and invited the cat to make the rounds with her. And then she will find her owner, but she didn't have time to finish because she felt some kind of darkness behind her. The girl did not dare turn around, afraid to see what was standing there. But behind her, a demon with red eyes was slowly approaching her. This is not a cat at all. Agnes met the gaze of this creature, which was a black wolf demon. And he is a real demon. Will she really die again? And even such an insignificant death. But she doesn't want it that way, and this time she will do something to avoid it.